can you tell me your favorite thing about America in your best American accent?
But I love how positive the Americans are. They're really supportive when someone does well.
G'day and welcome to Big Down Under. I'm Charlie Cotton and I'm from the capital of Australia, which is not Sydney. If you think it's Sydney, that's kind of why I'm here, actually. My first guest that I've chosen for this show is Curtis Stone, Chef Curtis Stone. And there's a number of reasons why I wanted him to be the first guest. I actually see a little bit of myself in Curtis. I relate to him a bit. He's an Aussie who came over here, ended up meeting an American lady and got married to her. And now he's raising a family in America as an Australian, in LA, like me too. So I want to talk to him about that. He's actually married to Lindsay Price, who is famous for the show Beverly Hills 90210. So they've got a beautiful family here, and I want to talk to him about his identity and his sense of nationality and patriotism, having lived so much of his life away from, Australia, the place he called home. I want to talk to him about some of the TV shows he's been involved in. He got big in the world. He got big overall from a show called Take Home Chef, where he met random people at a supermarket, then said, I'm going to go home and cook dinner with you, for you. He got really big then, and since then, he gets to go on all these talk shows like Today Show, Good Morning America. He was on Ellen a bunch, or Martha Stewart's show a bunch. He's got Michelin award-winning restaurants. His food, his restaurants are like second to none. That's basically what this episode is about. And he, in essence, is the premise of the show, talking about an interesting Aussie that, man, if you guys knew more about Curtis Stone, and you're about to, you'll fall in love with this guy. So get ready. First episode with Chef Curtis Stone. So Curtis, mate, we've met before, haven't we?
We sure have. Normally, as I'm looking super tired, walking off an aeroplane. But yeah, we've met a few times.
Yeah, I mean, my job is to try to find celebrities to interview at LAX, and I've seen you a few times over the years. Most recently, I saw you returning from the Michelin Star Awards, where you had awards for, what was it? It was Maud. Did Gwen get one too?
Gwen, yep, that's right. It was, I actually, as I said goodbye to you, I remembered that I had them in my bag and I could have pulled one out like a proud restaurateur, but I forgot.
No, you pulled them out. They were inside their case. They were inside like a cardboard box. You pulled them out and showed me.
It was the Michelin Awards last night.
How was it?
Brother, look at this. I've got my swag.
Oh no! What's going on?
One each, one for Gwen and one for Maud.
These are the actual stars.
These are the actual stars.
You put them up in your restaurant?
Absolutely. They'll be on the wall tomorrow.
So that's what I like about like doing this job. Some people call me a paparazzi. I call myself a field reporter. But I get to like have these authentic interactions with celebrities that, if you're sitting down in a podcast studio, maybe they're a little different. But so we've run into each other a few times over the years. I just wanted to know, what's it like being on the other side of things? Like, I love what I do, going up to celebrities and like, hey, can I have a chat? Can I have a chat? But from a celebrity's perspective, what do you think when you get off a plane, tired and looking like hell, and you bump into me?
Well, it's super embarrassing to admit, but that's the truth. When you get off the plane looking like shit, the last thing you want is a camera in your face, but that's all right.
Right.
And I think you're also like, oh, don't say the wrong thing, because I have a big mouth and I say too much quite often. And then you read it and you're like, oh, but I didn't mean it like that, So it's a little stressful. I'm not going to lie, but it's good fun.
Yeah, I mean, I try to approach the celebrity in a way that like, this isn't a gotcha thing. I'm not trying to screw you over. I just want to have a laugh. And, most of the time it works out. And some of the time they'll say, no way. And I'll say, okay, all good. But you're one of my favorites, obviously, to get, because you got a big mouth and you say, yeah, sure, let's have a chat. I wanted to know, is there a big difference between being a celebrity chef and having to put up with people like me and probably people in the restaurant too, versus just being like a really great chef that doesn't have such a sort of presence on TV and stuff?
Oh God. I don't know. It sort of creeps up on you gradually, I guess. Like I started cooking in incredible restaurants when I was 20 and did my apprenticeship in Australia and then carried on doing that. So that was my life. And then I did a tiny little show and then a little bit more. And then I wrote a book and, it just sort of comes gradually. So I guess when you live in that life, you don't really know why someone stops you to say hello. Are they a customer at the restaurant or did they watch you on a TV show or whatever it is?
Right.
So maybe it does change drastically, but you don't notice it. That's the truth.
Because I had, when I was talking about having you on the podcast, the two lawyers here at TMZ had a dinner out at Maud one night. And they loved it. And they saw you in the kitchen cooking and they said to the waiter, hey, can we get Curtis to come out, say hello? The waiter said, sorry, he's busy, even though you didn't look that busy apparently. But it must be kind of a bit confronting when every time you go to work, there's just people want a piece of you and it's to do with your food, but it's also just, to do with your celebrity power.
It's interesting. I always because I ask myself that question, right? Do the guests want to see you cooking or do they want to see you come out and take photos with people? And I think some guests want one thing and some want the other.
Right.
The challenge is if you're actually on a station, like if I'm doing the grill, for instance, which I do a lot at Gwen, if I stop and come out into the restaurant and take a photo, that's no big deal. I can do it. But then if someone else says, oh, we want one too, then I'm wait on a table or I'm overcooking someone's steak. So you kind of you got to make this sort of judgment, right? But I love talking to the guests. I love coming out. I always do when service sort of starts to die down a little bit, but not everyone's still there at that point. So yeah, it's a challenge.
So tell me about growing up in Australia. Was it Sydney you grew up in?
Melbourne.
Very good. Tell me about growing up there. When did you realize that you enjoyed cooking food and that it was something that you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
So I always loved food and I used to play around a little bit at home and sort of, try and cook sweet things. My mum was pretty strict. She didn't let us have a lot of sweet stuff. So I'd try and make it and then she couldn't sort of deny it. And then me and one of my buddies at school, we went to an all boys school and the girls' school, our sister school, they had home economics. So Shannon Bennett and I came up with a plan to meet girls and we said, let's enroll in home economics and we'll go to the girls' school.
Oh, perfect, mate.
So we did. Shannon ended up owning Vue de Monde, probably Melbourne's best chef, and I ended up going and doing what I did. So the pursuit of trying to chase a couple of girls. By the way, we sucked at chasing girls. We had no
really luck. Look at you, man.
We're decent cooks.
The reason you're so good for this show is you're so just quintessentially Aussie. You're a good-looking surfer dude who knows how to cook, who's funny and charismatic. If I was to paint a picture of the Aussie, it'd look something like you. So I dare say food has, endeared a lot of women to you over the years.
It's something nice to have in your back pocket for sure, to be able to cook dinner, But you also feel like a bit of a cheeseball offering it up, especially early on. If you're dating someone and you're like, come around, I'll cook you dinner. It's a little on the nose.
It's a Netflix and chill sort of situation. So you got into food. I was reading about you as well that you're a college dropout. Is it business school you took and you decided, nah, it's not for me?
I wasn't sure because I finished year 12 and I was like, do I do an apprenticeship? Do I my dad was like, go to university, mate, be a lawyer. I got decent grades.
A lawyer?
I got accepted into law. I didn't really want to be a lawyer, but I did get accepted into law. So he was like, what do you mean you're going to be a cook? You can be, he was a CFO. So I ended up deciding to cook, and my first job was at the Southern Cross Hotel. And I'm not joking you, all I did for the first 9 months was peel onions and slice onions. That was it. That was my job.
How do you stop the tears then? You must know what's the best onion chopping tear strategy?
Nothing works. You can wear goggles, but then you look like an idiot. So there's no other solution to it other than literally covering your eyes. But you get used to it and you smell really bad. Right. So anyway, halfway into that, I was like, I don't know if I think I made the wrong choice. I think my dad was right. I should go back I should enroll in a Bachelor of Business. So I did, and I started that, and then I started to enjoy cooking as I got deeper into the apprenticeship. Once I progressed off onion slicing, mind you, I can slice onions like a ninja, which is helpful. But Yeah, I was doing my apprenticeship. I was going to uni part time, and then I decided to travel and go to Europe. So I deferred my uni, but I've never gone back. So you're right. I'm a college dropout.
Oh, so there's still a chance you might complete your course at some point. I like that. A show that I think that really popularized you over here in the States was Take Home Chef, where you like met people. I mean, it's a great idea. You meet people at a supermarket. I'll go home with you and I'll cook it for whoever you're cooking it for. That's an amazing thing. I feel like that was kind of a bit of your launch over here in the States. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I came over to do that show. I didn't expect it to be such a big show. It was only meant to be 12 episodes when we first sort of signed on to do it. And it was a bit cheeky and a bit silly, and I got to cook people dinner in their homes. And then the fun part was when their husband or boyfriend or whoever they lived with came home from work and found a film crew and me there with their partner, obviously cooking them dinner, but it was still a little bit silly. But yeah, no, that show sort of took off. It obviously rated well, and we ended up doing 140 of them.
Crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah.
And then you were on The Celebrity Apprentice, which
Right.
is amazing in and of itself, especially, given what's happened since with Donald Trump now, a president again. Do you look at Trump and just all that sort of stuff with the sort of perspective that you knew him back then and you had interactions with him back then and look at him now? Do you kind of like, you must think about it in a different way than the rest of us?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at that point, he had no political aspirations, right? He was doing a reality show and running a real estate business. He was outspoken, and he had a lot to say about lots of things, but you didn't ever really think that he would, until, at least for me, maybe I'm wrong because my American politics knowledge isn't brilliant, but, most people that want to become the president or the prime minister or whatever of a country start their life in politics. Trump had nothing to do with politics until he decided he was going to. So, it's bizarre. It's nuts. I remember someone asking me, has he got a chance the first time? And I was like, no, he's not a politician. He's not going to become the president. And then that happened. So I was kind of like, whoa.
He has several sort of weird food habits. Like he's obsessed with McDonald's.
Is that right?
Oh, it's kind of a joke that it's all he eats, but I mean, he's just obsessed with the fast food. Would you ever go to the White House and cook him something real, maybe cook him something Australian one day?
Oh, I accept the challenge for sure.
What would you make? What would you make him?
Well, if I was going to sort of lean into Australian, we bring in some beautiful Wagyu beef. I know that he likes steak.
He likes it well done as well. You need to make that. You need to cook that thing hard.
That's a problem. You shouldn't cook it well done. I guess if you were going to serve well done steak, you'd have to think about, you wouldn't serve a big thick steak. Maybe you'd slice it thin. Wagyu is actually pretty good when it's really nicely caramelized. In fact, they normally shave it and then serve it in like shabu shabu, which is a bubbling broth, so you just dip it in and eat it.
Nice.
So it's medium rare. It's not well done. It's just quickly flash cooked. So maybe that's the answer for the Donald.
I mean, he's a big listener of this podcast. So, I mean, he might take you up on that, Curtis. Not okay, sure.
I'm ready.
You also had this show Getting Grilled where you like cooked with a lot of these famous celebrities. Is there like a particular celebrity who you're like, if they wanted to make it as a big time chef, if they wanted to open a restaurant, I think they could.
You know what? I had Sebastian Maniscalco on, and I'd never met him before, so it was the first time meeting him on the show. But I was a big fan of his stuff, and he was so interested in everything. Right? He didn't really want to do the show. He just wanted to ask me a bunch of questions around food. And then when we got into the kitchen and cooked, literally stopping me every 2 seconds to ask another question. We've become mates. And he genuinely wants to go to culinary. So I've got a text message from him just the other day saying, seriously, which culinary school should I?
No way.
And I'm like, dude, you can't go to culinary school. It'd be ridiculous. But yeah, it is quite fascinating how many people, I think food plays a really interesting role in lots of people's lives. And we had Terry Hatcher come in, and she actually did go to culinary school. She actually went to Le Cordon Bleu, and she enrolled on her own bat. And she was like, at the end of it, we had this job placement where we would go, all the students would go and work in restaurants, and the the chef pulled her aside and said, "Do you really want to do this?" And she was like, "I do, but I guess you should give it to someone else first." So, she was quite gracious. But yeah, she went and did work experience, I think at Providence.
Amazing.
A good restaurant. So she's it is interesting how many people are in love with food.
I want to turn now more and focusing on Australia and Australian things because we got something in common. We both married an American woman. So
Yes.
we're both in this situation. For me, it was I think it was hard, like accepting the fact that I live here now in America. I guess that I'm going to live here indefinitely. I'm going to raise a family and I'm going to raise American kids as an Australian. Like, what was it like for you, like the mental sort of like battle between I'm Aussie, but now I guess I'm a bit American.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Like that sort of question of where's your home? Like your home's always where you came from. And for me, home's always Australia. But I lived in England and have a real affinity for that. I was there for 8 years. I've been in America for probably double that time, maybe 16 years. And I love the joint. I love the attitude of the people. And yeah, so you I guess you sort of develop and change along the way and you get little influences here and there. But you're right, having kids that speak with strong American accent is different for us, right? You kind of like, and I bet you play the same game I do. You say something like, "That's not how you say it." You're like,
right.
Yeah, it is.
It's not banana. It's not banana. It's banana.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's pretty funny. And it's like, why do you say it like that? And I'm like, I don't know, mate. You have to look back into American history and figure out why they decided to change the word.
Exactly. You have still a very thick Australian accent, which is kind of interesting given how long you've lived here. Now, be honest with me, Curtis. Do you work on your Australian accent?
No, I don't.
Come on.
You know what's interesting? When I lived in England, I found myself speaking with a bit of an English twang. And I reckon that's because when you're with English people, they speak more accurately or more correctly than we do as Aussies. We shorten everything.
True.
We drop balls. So I think it's a bit like going to a formal event, right? When you're out and you're dressed in your tuxedo, you just behave a little bit nicer.
Yeah. If England is the tuxedo, then what is America? Like the Canadian tuxedo, mate. I don't know. Like
America is sweatpants and a jersey.
Right.
They're relaxed in the way they speak. They kind of, they have their own way. It's cool.
Because I work on my accent, admittedly. Well, I mean, not regularly, but I think that I owe a lot of my success in America to the fact I'm Australian. But basically, I don't know that I would have got hired at all. Actually, my boss, Harvey, often tells me that he wouldn't have hired me unless I was Australian. Which is, I accept that. Americans love us, and I'm trading off it, and you're trading off it a bit too, whether it's consciously or not consciously. How much of your success do you think you owe to being Australian?
Oh, probably a lot. I think I always I remember being with my wife in England and we're with Marco Pierre White's business partner, and he said how lucky I was. And my wife stood up for me and she was like, actually, he's worked his ass off. He's not lucky. And he said, I know a lot of good chefs, wonderful chefs that can cook beautifully that haven't gotten what he got. And I'm like, he's right. I have been really fortunate. I came here. I know that when they cast Take Home Chef, they were looking for someone that had an accent, whether it was from England or Australia or whatever, because it was it broke that ability to be able to just approach someone in a supermarket and offer to cook them dinner. It sort of sounded a little cuter, I guess, if it came from a foreigner than from just the guy up the road. So, yeah, absolutely. And, I think you're absolutely right. Americans have a bit of an affinity for Aussies. They don't think we're horrible. And yeah, that's probably worked in my favor. But I want to know how you work on your accent. What do you do? Like, you watch Crocodile Dundee on repeat, and how do you work on your Aussie accent?
Well, I definitely try to watch as much Australian TV as possible. I've got young kids, so Bluey's always on. But I love the Australian reality shows. My wife, who's from Colorado, also obviously loves Australians, loves the culture. So it's not hard to convince her to pop on sort of like Married at First Sight Australia. But I work on it in so much as if I hear myself saying something that sounds American, I will, in my head, I'll go, no. We don't say it like that. We don't say it like that. Like in that way, I work on it where I actively try to avoid and teach myself along the way. Don't say banana, okay? Just say banana. Sometimes you slip. Like we've lived here so long, sometimes you slip. And I say, look, that was a slip up, Charlie. Let's not let it happen again.
Then I'm lying because I probably work on it too. That's the truth.
There we go.
It's hard for me because when I'm back in Oz, I do a lot of stuff still working in Australia. And if I'm there talking about shrimp, of course, Aussies want to throw something at you if you call a prawn a shrimp. Because they're like, what? You're so American. What happened to you? So no tomatoes, they're tomatoes. No, tomatoes. See?
Oh, you missed. There we go. Too long in America. This is a question I'm going to ask everybody who comes on the podcast. Can you tell me your favorite thing about America in your best American accent?
Oh my God. My American accent sucks. But
let me give you mine. Okay, I'll help you into it. I got one phrase I always say. I say, "Hot damn, that quarterback from Notre Dame can really toss the pigskin." Okay, so that's me. Bad. That's me. Let's see you now, Curtis.
My wife always laughs at me and says, you sound like a gangster from Jersey when you try and be an American accent. But I love how positive the Americans are. They're really supportive when someone does well.
That's hilarious. That is actually you're very right. That's a big cultural difference. My wife always says to me, can you be less Australian? Like, because I always say, oh yeah, that's pretty good. And pretty good is a very big compliment in Australia. Right. But she's like, can you be less Australian? And I know that she wants me to say, oh my God, that's wonderful. That's glorious. So that's a cultural difference.
Very true.
Do you and your wife have any sort of cultural differences like in the kitchen? Is there like food differences that you've had to either like accept or resist?
You know, eating is tough here in the States. When you've got young kids, and you want them to use their manners, you want them to hold their fork in their left hand, their knife in their right hand, not switch them over, not shovel food in like that. So I try and teach them the right way. And, that gets, my wife has beautiful manners, so I'm lucky with her. But, I think it's a little jarring when you're telling someone they're doing it wrong, but there's other Americans around that are like, what do you mean? That's how I do it too.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of shoveling food into your mouth, maybe the best Australian food invention, cooking invention, the splade. The knife, fork, spoon combo, all in one Australian invention. I feel like we should get more credit for that. I mean, people don't talk about how like we actually brought this over here.
I didn't know it was an Aussie invention, so you're teaching me something.
There you go, mate. There you go.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of all the silverware at Gwen. We're going to splades only.
That's not a bad idea, actually. Something that annoys me about America and like their love of Australia is that Outback Steakhouse, not Australian. Like Foster's, not Australian. Like there's probably a laundry list of all of these like companies, American companies trading off our good Australian brand. Does it annoy you that, there's these things like Outback Steakhouse?
You know what? I've never been to one, so I can't intelligently say that it's good or it sucks. I really don't know. I just went to a Walmart for the very first. I've lived here, I say 18 years. Mm-hmm. I went to a soccer tournament in Oceanside with my son. We stopped. And we were having a coffee, I was, and then I said to him, look at that, there's a Walmart there. I've never been in there. And he's like, let's go. So we went into Walmart, mate. It was so fun. So, I think Aussies, because we don't have anything like that in Australia. Our supermarkets are still just little supermarkets in comparison to how we do it over here. But you know what? Those big chainy kind of restaurants, they're normally not brilliant. So I can't talk about the steakhouse specifically, but I can imagine it's pretty average. I've seen their pricing. Yeah,
but like Bloomin' Onion, they try and make it Bloomin' Onions like Aussie things. I'd never even heard of a Bloomin' Onion before I came over here. Now you're telling Americans that's what we eat? It's the seat. It's the seat.
Yeah.
What else was I going to say? Oh, Was Hudson your son who you had the coffee with?
Emerson.
Oh, Emerson.
Emerson's a little soccer champion. He loves it. He's into it. And my big boy, Huddy, he plays basketball, but he's in a band. He's a musician. So it's kind of cute. We just had our own little halftime show here for the Super Bowl recently where Huddy got his band together and they played for us. It was pretty cool.
I actually did a bit of a deep dive on Hudson when I knew you were coming on the podcast. And like, no offense, but that kid's going to be more famous than you. Like,
I can't wait.
like he's a cute kid. His band is awesome. They're on the same festival lineup as was it Lenny Kravitz are on the same day as?
Yeah, they're playing Beach Life down in Redondo Beach in May. And his band, the Rookies, they're super talented. They're four kids that all sort of got together. They all go to different schools. The only thing that sort of ties them together is their music, and they love it. You know, they're into it. They're writing. They're writing some beautiful stuff. It's cool. It's cool.
He's going to be bigger than you. I'll predict it here now. He's going to be something.
I'm going to play him this, and he's going to remind me of it again.
All right, I got a grab bag of bad questions to finish us out. All right.
Okay.
So I'll try not to ask too many follow-ups. AI is coming for all our jobs. And I'm not sure if it's coming for like cooking or not, but when I think of cooking and baking especially, I guess, it's like a science. It's maths. And that's kind of what AI sort of specializes in, is just getting everything exactly right. Do you think like if you trained an AI on like Curtis Stone cookbook recipes and that sort of stuff, would they be able to outcook you at your own stuff? Or basically, can you taste the love in something really?
Oh, I don't think so. You can taste passion. Like if someone's super passionate, I worked for Marco Pierre White for nearly a decade, and there wasn't a lot of love in that kitchen. There was a lot of screaming, and the food tasted bloody amazing. So I get it. I understand why people say you can taste the love, because when you think of someone and you nurture them and you think of their favorite things and you cook for them, it's super special. You know, Valentine's Day is around the corner. People always asking me, what do I do for Valentine's Day? And I'm like, do whatever your partner's into. You know, like I can't give you that recipe because I don't know. You know, it's much more thoughtful if you cook something that you know someone's going to like, even if it's chicken fingers. If that's their favorite thing in the world and you do it, I'm sure they'd be happy. So, you know, I do think AI is really interesting. You know, when I grew up cooking, your recipes were something you guarded. They were your secret. They were your identity, you know, like you didn't share them. And now you share everything and you can learn everything from the internet and it's all there, you know, and now AI generation is starting to happen, and I'm sure it can create great recipes. I don't know whether it can cook the food. They're not that sophisticated yet, I don't think that will be in my lifetime, but who knows? Who knows?
Maybe there could be like just a robot, Curtis Stone, opening a restaurant, the Pie Room Part 2. You know what I mean? I could see it. I don't know why I wrote this question down, but how good is key lime pie? I know you got the Pie Room. Key lime pie is like my favorite food in the world, and I was in Australia recently. Basically, no one like eats it or knows what it is. Like, we're missing out. This key lime pie thing it should take over.
It's so good. It's such a wonderful, wonderul pie. I much prefer it to a lemon meringue pie, which is kind of the Aussie equivalent. But I'm like, why bother with the meringue? Whipped cream's much better than the meringue. And key lime pie, it's a winner.
Another one of your pies is my mum's like favorite recipe to cook. In fact, when I was in Australia last week, she cooked your chicken and leek pie. And it is nice. It's in one of those pots with the pastry over the top. It is so good. So question from her, how come no carrots in the recipe?
You can put carrots. It's like
she does.
A choice. Yeah, okay.
You choose no carrots though. But can people like adapt your recipes like that and go, look, I think Curtis missed the trick here?
You know, I'm always like, I just put down in the recipe what I think is going to work that day. It doesn't mean it's the only thing that can be in there, you know. And if you go to your fridge and you've got certain vegetables that you want to use up, toss them in. Pies are great for that.
Marijuana, pretty big over here in the States. I got a new TV show idea for you. Curtis Stoned. You just cook with weed, and like that's as far as I've got on the idea. But you know, have a think about it.
Okay, I'll stick it in the bank. Could work for your mum's pie, chicken and marijuana pie. I don't know.
I like that. I like that. And finally, final question. Kiss, marry, kill. Guy Fieri, Martha Stewart, Gordon Ramsay.
Oh my God. I've recently watched the Martha doc. I think I'd marry Martha. She's so fascinating to me. I love her. She's awesome.
Agreed. Who would you kiss then? Hard choice.
Actually, I've messed this up, haven't I?
Oh, that's hilarious.
You're right. I'm going to kiss Martha. I guess I'll marry Gordon and I'll kill Guy.
Wow. Guy Fieri, Flavortown, R.I.P. That is hilarious. You guys kind of got similar-ish hair. You know, you don't have the frosted tips, but you got nice hair. You got nice hair.
He's my mate too. I'm going to send him this.
Yeah, very good. Well, Curtis, mate, loved chatting to you, mate. I follow you and your career very closely, and I feel like we're mates, even though you don't really know me. And I don't know. I enjoy you, and I look up to you, man. So thank you very much for coming on and having a chat to me.
You're a champ, Charlie. Nice to see you, mate.
Cheers, Curtis. Bye. Hello and welcome back to your new favourite podcast, Big Down Under. I'm here with Christina Cavalleri.
Cotton, mate, how are ya?
I'm very good. I'm so glad that finally another Australian works for TMZ.
I know, it's crazy. I'm coming and trying to take the Australian chair.
Actually, I was out the last few weeks.
I know.
And basically when I'm out, they just substitute you in just so we just...
And they'd come up to me and say, Christina, go and sit in the Australian chair. It's like, that's not your chair. That's actually the Australian chair.
That is hilarious. I heard Harvey thought you're more Australian than me.
I know, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of offended by that.
Oh, offended by being more Australian?
Well, I feel like you sound very Aussie.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think I sound that Australian.
I think Adelaide has a less twangy twang.
Yes, I don't think I'm that twangy. But then when he said I sounded more Australian, I thought, what?
It's interesting because I feel like Americans prefer the Australian accent on a guy. I mean...
What?
You don't...
Where have you pulled that from?
I feel like it's a sexy thing on a guy, but sometimes on a girl... I've heard Americans say it's a little jarring.
On a female?
That's what I've heard.
Okay.
Well, I don't personally. Me...
God, look, it's always the way. Men just sound better than women, as usual.
You sound fantastic. You sound fantastic. Well...
Colin, good to be here.
I got you in, and you're going to be in every episode because...
I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We need... This week down under, you to tell us like different stuff that's happening in Australia that might be big and relevant, but for whatever reason, maybe it hasn't made it across the Pacific or whatever over here to America. So,
well, we're in the future, so really it's happened before it's happened here.
Australia is in the future by about a day.
Exactly.
Yes. So the Super Bowl was recently, and one of our like hometown heroes, Jordan Mailata,
yes,
he won, and he had the big Australian flag up there on the stage.
I felt a sense of pride.
Me too.
Because it was so beautiful to see an Aussie on the NFL stage winning the Super Bowl. Like, that's unbelievable.
And the pride with the flag, like...
I know. And I as an Australian, though, I'm still grappling the rules of NFL. So it was cool to see an Australian knowing what he's doing on the field.
Yeah, I've been here like many years and I couldn't tell you what position he played. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Is it tight end? Is it?
You only know tight end though because of Travis Kelce.
Right, tight. And also it just sounds funny. Like a tight end, that's a position. Like, come on. So I was stoked that he won the Super Bowl. And also an announcement came just about the same time that the NFL is having a game is it games?
I think it's one game. Like I don't know.
They're playing it in Melbourne.
At the MCG. That's our grand final home. Like, that's our football home that they're playing in, which is incredible. And it's the Rams, which is even better.
Even better. Do you think that Australians are used to watching fast-paced, like Aussie rules and that sort of... Do you think Australians will, like, appreciate NFL for what it is or find it a bit boring?
I definitely think there would be a small group of NFL fans in Australia right now who are probably very excited. But I would like to see Australia kind of give some lessons about NFL as the lead up to the game happens.
To your fellow Australians, yeah.
I've been here for a year now and I'm still trying to figure out that game. Like, I need some proper like lessons, YouTube clips to go around that country so they understand.
Too much stoppage. We just need to keep the game running. Just keep the game running.
There's also not enough goals.
Not enough goals?
Yeah.
What do you mean by goals?
Well, we always kick goals in the AFL.
You mean touchdown?
Yes, sorry. In America, I'm saying there's not.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, like I need more touchdowns.
More scoring.
Yes, more scoring.
Okay, there's a bit of advice if you're listening, Roger Goodell.
Yeah, start kicking some touchdowns. I got
That's hilarious. Something else happening in Australia right now
Yes.
is Drake.
Drake, yes. Some would say he ran away to Australia during this time, but Australia's really, really giving him a big warm hug right now.
We are. I mean, obviously Kendrick was huge at the halftime show and he spent his whole set dissing Drake. And Drake's down under, basically acting like he's not got a care in the world.
Well, Australia's really not caring about Kendrick, it feels. Like they are loving Drake. Like his concerts are packed. Everyone's talking about him. People I follow who are back at home are loving his shows. It feels like everyone is kind of for Drake.
That is so interesting. Australia hasn't realized that Kendrick's won this thing yet. I mean, it's interesting because I feel like you get Kendrick more when you live in America and you understand like the enormity of the man himself and just how smart he is. And how, I mean, I love Kendrick, but if I was in Australia, I might not appreciate him as much.
I mean, maybe, but I think it is clear that Kendrick's won. But I think maybe we're just a little bit nicer and are like, oh, let's pour Drake in a way.
That's nice.
Supporting him. He's also handing out cash at his concerts.
He's handing out
cash.
Australian dollars or American dollars? Makes a difference.
I know, it really does.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's probably Australian dollars because I saw it on an Australian news website. And it was like $45,000 he handed out to two fans in Melbourne. One of them was a woman that had a sign saying Adonis for president, which is his son.
Okay.
So he was like, oh my God, you're giving so much love to my son.
Adonis wasn't born in America, so he couldn't be president. But anyway, go on.
So he handed her out 20 grand.
20 grand?
Which is crazy.
It feels like, is he trying to buy friends sort of thing?
Oh, you think he's trying to buy love?
It feels a little like that.
That's very sad.
It feels a little like that.
That is sad.
But these musicians who go to Australia, they always seem to love it. And they always seem...
Who wouldn't love Australia?
Of course. And they always... I hope they force Drake to do the famous Australian shoey.
They haven't done it yet.
They haven't done it to Drake.
You know what? If he doesn't do a shoey, I think that's when Australia will turn on Drake.
We'll write him off.
Yeah.
He'll be dead to us.
He needs to do a shoey.
He needs to do a shoey.
He did go to Nando's.
Explain what Nando's is for the Americans.
So Nando's would probably just be another fast food chain. It was founded, I found out, in South Africa, actually. So it's not really Australian, but they're everywhere in Australia. Fried chicken, hot chips, burgers, wraps.
Nice.
It's really good.
It's really good.
Great seasoning.
I wish we were sponsored by Nando's right now. This would be a great time to
Nando's, bit of a sponsor, please.
So he went to Nando's. What did he order?
Oh, he ordered $2.5 grand worth of food. Yes. And the receipt even says Drake's name.
Oh, $2.5 grand.
$2,651.75.
That's a lot at a fast food place.
Yep. Whole chicken, ribs, tender skewers, peri-nays. Do you remember the peri-peri sauce?
I love peri-peri sauce.
Oh, so good. That's a Nando's classic. A paella, a garden salad, large corn. He ordered a bunch, a lot of sauces. I'm guessing it's for his entourage for after the show.
I think so too. But Drake, do a shoey, mate. Do a shoey.
Do a shoey or get out of Australia.
Should we at the end of every episode, me and you just do a shoey?
I am not doing a shoey. I'm not. What's a shoey, Wild Ass?
Wild doesn't know what a shoey is? Oh, we've been talking about shoey this whole time. Shoey's where you pour a drink into your shoe and we say scull it. You chug it. You chug a drink out of your shoe. Would you do it right now, Wild? Our producer Wild's not going to do it. Drake needs to do a shoey though.
He needs to. Like I said, otherwise get out.
Get out, Drake.
Get out, mate.
All right. Thank you, Christina.
Anytime, Cotton.
And thank you guys for listening to the episode. Tune back weekly. We'll be giving you the What's Up with the Down Under every week. So thanks for joining us and we'll see you next week.
Catch ya.